You did something she liked. Maybe you made her laugh. Maybe you held yourself well in a conversation. Maybe you just walked into the room like you belonged there. And then, almost immediately, something shifted. She got a little quieter, a little more distant. She stopped being so easy to reach. You texted her and she took longer to reply. You made a plan, and she suddenly was not sure about it. You said something confident, and she looked at you like she was waiting for you to take it back. And you probably sat there thinking, what did I do wrong? Here is what most men never figure out. You did not do anything wrong. She was not pulling away. She was paying attention. Women test confidence the same way you test ice before you walk on it. Not because they want you to fall, because they need to know if it will hold. If you have ever felt confused by this kind of behavior, if you have ever second-guessed yourself trying to figure out what she actually wants, you are in exactly the right place. Subscribe to this channel. We break down the psychology behind attraction and social dynamics in a way that actually makes sense. No games, no manipulation, just clarity. Now let us get into the real patterns. The first sign she is testing your confidence is when she gives you a completely unnecessary challenge over something small. You suggest a restaurant and she says, "Are you sure about that place?" You recommend a movie and she tilts her head and says, "Really, that one?" On the surface it looks like she just has opinions, and maybe she does. But watch what she does after you respond. If you immediately fold and say, "Oh well, whatever you want," you just failed the test without realizing the test even started. She was not asking you to change the plan. She was asking whether you actually believed in yourself enough to hold a light position. A man who abandons his preferences, the second someone raises an eyebrow, is not leading anything. He is just hoping to be accepted. And she can feel that instantly. The second sign is the silence after you say something bold. You drop a confident statement, maybe about what you want, what you think, where you see things going. And instead of responding right away, she just looks at you. Not with a smile, not with hostility, just with a kind of calm observation. Most men fill that silence with explanations. They start adding context, softening the statement, apologizing for their own opinion, which is honestly a little bit like answering a question nobody asked. That silence is not disagreement. It is measurement. She is watching whether you trust what you just said or whether you will quietly unsay it the moment there is no applause. Before we go deeper, let me ask you something personal. Have you ever been in a situation where she seemed to be pulling back right when things were going well, and you spent days trying to figure out what you did wrong, only to realize later that nothing was actually wrong at all? Drop a comment below. If this sounds familiar, right, I thought I was losing her but she was just watching. You would be surprised how many men have been in the exact same place and thought they were completely alone in it. The third sign is when she cancels or reschedules with minimal explanation. Not with a cold tone, not with drama, just with a calm and slightly vague message that gives you just enough room to spiral if you choose to. This is one of the most misread signals in early attraction. Most men interpret it as rejection. They either disappear completely or they over-explain themselves and start apologizing for things they did not even do. What she is actually watching for is whether you can handle uncertainty without losing your composure. A man who panics when plans change is showing her that his emotional stability depends on external confirmation. That is not attractive. What is attractive is the man who responds with warmth, flexibility, and zero desperation. Something like "No problem, let me know when works for you." Short, calm. Not cold, but not needy either. That response communicates more confidence than any carefully crafted paragraph ever could. The fourth sign is the playful contradiction. She argues with you about something completely unimportant. Not a real disagreement, more like a light push to see if you push back or fold immediately. The man who always agrees, who never defends a single opinion, who shapes himself perfectly around whoever he is talking to, does not feel safe to a woman. He feels unpredictable in the worst way. Because if he has no real position on anything, she never knows who she is actually dealing with. Confidence is not about being stubborn. It is about being real. A man who can smile, hold his ground lightly, and still remain warm is showing her something very few men actually demonstrate. Here is something worth sitting with. Women are not testing men because they enjoy watching them struggle. They are testing because they have learned, often through real experience, that the version of a man you see at the beginning is not always the version that shows up later. The tests are not traps. They are previews. She is trying to see the real thing before she invests. The man who understands this does not take the tests personally. He does not try to perform his way through them. He simply stays grounded, stays present, and lets who he actually is do the work. That is the whole secret. Not tricks, not calculated responses, not scripts. Just the genuine ability to remain yourself when someone is quietly checking whether you will. Every time you stay calm when she pulls back, every time you hold a light opinion without becoming defensive, every time you respond to uncertainty with ease rather than anxiety, you are communicating something she cannot ignore. You are telling her without a single word that you do not need her approval to feel stable. And that is exactly what creates real attraction. Keep observing. Keep learning. The men who understand human behavior are always 10 steps ahead, not because they are manipulating anything, but because they finally stopped being confused by it.